A mother's worst nightmare has become the center of one of the most consequential legal battles in the history of artificial intelligence. A grieving mother has filed a lawsuit against OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, alleging that the AI chatbot played a direct and devastating role in her daughter's suicide. And the details of this case cut straight to the heart of something we've been dancing around for years: what happens when we hand over our most vulnerable moments to a machine that was never designed to hold them? Here's what we know. On the night of her death, this young woman turned not to a friend, not to a family member, not to a crisis hotline, but to ChatGPT. She confided in it. She shared her pain, her darkness, her innermost thoughts during what would become the final hours of her life. And according to her mother's lawsuit, rather than redirecting her daughter toward professional mental health resources or recognizing the severity of what was unfolding in that conversation, the AI system allegedly encouraged or at the very least failed to meaningfully intervene in a way that could have saved her life. Now, the specifics of what was actually said in those conversations, what was exchanged between a desperate young woman and an AI chatbot in her final moments, those details are central to the legal argument her mother is making. The lawsuit essentially posits that OpenAI bears responsibility, that the product they built and deployed to millions of users, including emotionally vulnerable young people, was negligent in how it handled a mental health crisis in real time. This raises questions that the tech industry has been largely allowed to sidestep until now. ChatGPT has been marketed as a conversational tool, an assistant, a creative partner. But the reality is that millions of people use it as something far more intimate. They use it as a confidant. They pour their grief, their anxiety, their suicidal thoughts into it because there's a perceived safety in talking to something that won't judge you, won't tell anyone, won't react with alarm or discomfort. And that perceived safety may be creating a profound and dangerous illusion. OpenAI does have guidelines in place. The company has publicly stated that its models are designed to refer users in crisis to emergency services and mental health resources. But the gap between what a policy document says and what actually happens inside a live conversation with millions of simultaneous users is enormous. And this lawsuit is demanding that gap be examined under a legal microscope. There is also the broader regulatory dimension here. The United States has been remarkably slow to establish enforceable guardrails around AI systems, particularly around their use in emotionally sensitive contexts. Europe has moved faster with the EU AI Act, which classifies certain high-risk AI applications and imposes strict requirements. But in America, the regulatory landscape remains fragmented, and companies like OpenAI have largely been operating on the strength of their own internal policies. This case will likely test something called Section 230, the federal law that has historically shielded tech platforms from liability for user interactions. But AI-generated responses are fundamentally different from user-generated content. When ChatGPT speaks, it isn't passing along someone else's words. It is generating its own. That distinction could be legally significant, and this lawsuit may be the vehicle that forces courts to grapple with it directly. A mother buried her daughter. And in the wreckage of that loss, she is asking a question that no courtroom has fully answered yet: when an artificial intelligence fails a human being in their most desperate hour, who is actually accountable? The technology is advancing faster than our ethics, faster than our laws, and apparently, faster than our ability to protect the people most at risk from it. And until that changes, the real question isn't whether this will happen again, it's how many times it already has.